why we're excited about Algorand in general or DeFi on it, because I guess these are two different questions.
Go with the, one, why are you excited? Let's since we had the conversation kind of there, why are you excited about DeFi on Algorand? Let's go there first.
Okay, so the question is kind of self-explanatory if you actually have tried playing on even on Solana that currently is hoarding out of all of that volume, all of that liquidity. Even yesterday when the UN, this recent airdrop was happening, basically exploded Solana to the point where any swaps were impossible to make. You couldn't make anything. If you were just trying to use the dexes that were available to normal people, it was just not possible. Even if you set slippage to like 20%, it would just not go through because there was so much volatility. And on Algorand, these problems don't exist, and they wouldn't exist even if we had such a high amount of volume. And the problem here is essentially trying to show that we wouldn't have those problems, but we can't because we don't have that much volume. So the thing that you mentioned with oranges and juicing, that was my kind of approach to this, where I was trying to make something that tries to utilize the chain to its fullest potential, to make it to use basically as much of it as possible, and it succeeded quite well, to the point where indexers couldn't handle it, but not the network. The network was doing completely great.
Now, it'd be kind of interesting to ask you this question if you know this about Solana, because obviously if the dexes and the wallets are kind of having that issue of swapping whatnot, because Algorand kind of experienced that the chain continued on without a hiccup, when the juicing and stuff and the transactions ran sky high. But obviously if you were using Para or maybe trying to swap on Vestige or something, it seemed like there was a lot of issues people were experiencing. Is that similar to what maybe Solana experienced as well, or was it a chain issue there?
It's not quite similar to what Solana experienced, because when Solana has had high throughput problems, it has been the underlying chain that has halted. Whereas when we had the problems that we experienced, it was essentially two main things. One of them was that we had hard-coded, most dApps out there hard-code a fee structure that doesn't really fit when there's high demand. So Algorand has a fee scaling mechanism where if you are in a situation of high demand, you need to pay more for X or Y transactions, just as a way to like counteract DDoS attacks and whatnot. Most people don't do that because we have never had a high throughput situation on mainnet. So when the Aura launch happened and we suddenly were on that situation, what happened is that a lot of these dApps on their front end or on their wallet interface or on their whatnot, they had hard-coded this, and they never allowed it to be a variable. So because they had never allowed it to be a variable, it was just failing because the fees that they were paying weren't enough to be appended to the current block. And then the second one was that a lot of infrastructure providers, they run their infrastructure assuming that we're going to have a volume of, I don't know, 10,000. And when Aura launched, we had a volume of like 1 million, like 100x what usually the chain experience, or 1,000x what the chain usually experience. So in that influx, because a lot of these businesses are either running at a loss or cutting costs wherever they can, they tend to use either public goods like Orthos nodes, or alternatively, they tend to run nodes that aren't necessarily the most performant heavy to cut a bit on the bill. And that caused essentially like most of the problems. But the chain itself, what it means, like the posting of transactions within the parameters of the chain, that never stopped. And that worked flawlessly. So if you had like infrastructure critical, like something critical where you actually do all of these operations because you want it to run 24/7, you wouldn't have seen a bleep, which is awesome, honestly.
Yeah. And I think Algorand's time is coming where it'll get to flex, its strength, just like Solana is getting to flex its better things or its good things outside of Ethereum right now. I think the time is coming as well. And you guys are going to be starting the juicing again, come like the early part of February. Is that correct?
I mean, we are preparing for it, but it won't come back in the same format that we did in January. So I learned from my mistake that just letting people spam the chain causes problems to people who try to run it. So the different approach is that there will be a single kind of a spammer central application that will adjust itself to spam in the most efficient way, right? Because in January people were spamming just as like 0.001 transaction fees, and that means that there's like a million of them that are coming like hour after hour after hour. So the staking contract actually will do that, so it posts as little transactions as possible while still getting those rewards.
Yeah,